We are talking about strategy 10 today, which is forcing the child to reject the targeted parent. Baker wrote an ebook or a paper addressing each one of the strategies and ways that you can combat them or ways that you can respond to each one of them. And the example she uses for this one in particular is pretty much the exact thing that happened to me. The child is forced or coerced or feels pressured into rejecting the other parent because of the loyalty conflict that is present, that the alienating parent has put in place. So for my situation, my ex had informed me for some reason, I forget what it was, that she was in soccer. She was in pre-kindergarten. She was in soccer, but that her league was only doing it every other weekend, and it just so happened to be on his weekends. So there was no need to ever take her to any practices. There weren't practices. And on my weekends, there were never games. So not to worry. I did a little digging because I at the time, I was really concerned with trying to keep things, copacetic. I wanted continuity between both homes so that my daughter could feel, like her life didn't end and begin at each one of the houses. And I found out that her soccer games, in fact, were every weekend. And so as intimidated as I was to bring her on my weekend, with the support and coaxing from a couple of my friends, some encouragement from my friends, I decided to do so. And also my daughter had been coming home from school and talking about her soccer and how she so enjoyed it. And so I was going to bring her. So I showed up with her to one of the games on that Saturday morning. And the coach, first off, was super surprised. He almost took a step back and looked at me. He said, "You're her mom?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Huh." And I have a feeling that what it was that I was probably made out to be some, drug addict, incapable, absent mom, but clearly not the case. And so the coach actually was overly nice and said so much that he was so sorry that, he would do whatever it took to accommodate us, because I didn't have her uniform. I didn't have anything to put her in, except for, I went out and bought her new soccer shoes and, shin guards and did the whole bit, brought her there with that, but I didn't have a jersey for her. So he got us a jersey, and it was strange because he was apologetic. And for what? I mean, there was nothing that he did, but I think the uncomfortability was there, right? Already. So anyway, so we go about, my daughter starts playing the game, and I'm sitting with some other mom friends of mine. And towards the end of the game, maybe there was 10 minutes left of the game, I look across the field, and there her dad, stepmom, and stepbrother come with their chairs, their gear, and they came to set up, laser beam eyes directed right at me. So I'm assuming that one of the other parents that was in cahoots with them called them to inform them that my daughter was in fact there, and so was I. And so they were not having that. So they showed up, my daughter noticed, and they were sitting across the field. And when she was coming off the field, they were standing right at the edge and forcing her to come. So making her go to that side of the field and distracting her, I would see my daughter looking up at me and sort of, knowing that she felt bad, or, that she knew that I brought her, but that she was over there. And I just smiled and waved at her. I didn't at the time, number one, have the guts, but I also just didn't have the heart to go over there. I thought it would be wrong to take her away for any reason. And I thought it would be wrong to make a scene. I didn't want to cause her any more stress than was already being put on her, because clearly she was already being put in a position to have to choose. And so I chose to stay quiet, and she would steal a smile. I'd blow her a kiss whenever she looked over at me, and I left it at that. They pretty much monopolized her time. I mean, the difference between the time when I was just there with her and then when they showed up the last 10 or 15 minutes, what happened in my daughter's demeanor, in her mannerisms in general, and her spirit, right, just was, she clearly seemed distracted, maybe weighted a bit after they came. But they sure as heck did everything that they could to keep her on that side of the field until, it was time to leave. I think I did do a wave, like, hi, just trying to show my daughter, listen, it's okay, we can all be together. But I didn't have the guts to do the suggested protocol, which is it's described that basically when you succumb to their bullying this way, that when you back off and you allow them to take over, it's expressing to your child that your fear takes precedence over your child's happiness and the ability to be able to coexist, whether or not that parent is being naughty or not. The idea is to confront it head on in a very non-confrontational way, which is an art, as I've been describing in all of these videos. I know for me, this is one of the ones that I know I did have the hardest time with, because it's so hard for me. It kills me to see my child, cringing because of the tension in the air. And so I don't ever want to add to it, right? But it's been proven, and there are studies, and all the experts talk about the fact that you must confront that head on, and then speaking to your child afterwards and saying, I know it must be hard for you to be in a situation where you feel like you have to choose. And I want you to know that I'm going to be here, and I choose not to bow out of your activities because you are important to me, and watching you perform is very, very important to me. So when and if the situation arises that you feel like you have to choose between us, I hope that you understand that you don't, and I'm going to be here. This also happened another time there was a Pioneer Day at my daughter's school, and she told me the day before, and so I rushed to get all the stuff together, and I'm not a sewer by any means, but I ended up borrowing my friend's sewing machine and making her this bonnet and this apron. And the next day we showed up, and I waited in the cafeteria. They come, single file in, the class does, and I'm excited to watch my daughter perform, and then I'm excited also to dance with her and just share the experience. It was their time. It's going to be square dancing and a couple of other things, and the parents were invited to also join in. And in walks her stepmother at the last, right as the festivities were starting. And I thought, oh goodness, And so I'm standing by the bleachers, and the kids are already out there, and the teachers say, okay, it's time for the parents to come in. And so I start walking over. Well, as I do, in comes the stepmom and swoops her up, grabs her hands. And I'm like, just literally, I walked up and I just was like stunned because it was stopped right in my tracks. She was grabbed straight from me, basically. And she just looked at me, the stepmom, and was like, you can have her later. And with this nasty look, you can have her later. And walked away, stuck her nose up in the air, butt out, and just started dancing with her. And there was so much shock in me. There were so many feelings going on. I was shocked. I was appalled. I was disgusted. I was angry. I was sad. It was everything. It was like my daughter, the fact that she had to be subjected to this stress. She knew this is actually one of my days with my daughter. So, as far as the custody arrangement goes. So it really wasn't even the stepmom's right to do that. It wasn't her right regardless, but, schedule wise, it wasn't her right to do it. It was all around very stressful. And clearly the stepmom was not intending to ever stop taking that role on. She wasn't going to get off the dance floor, and she didn't. And I saw my daughter, she would look up at me and sort of smile. When she could, she had to steal looks again. And I smiled and just nodded at her like, it's okay, honey. But I was dying inside. It absolutely killed me, not for me, but for her. My daughter's teacher, you could tell, and she mouthed to me across the gym. She was like, I'm sorry, And it killed me. But so in that moment, although she was young, my daughter was forced to reject me, even though it wasn't, maybe, now that she's older, it's done more by choice, not with that encouragement though, right? But my daughter knows that it's not acceptable to choose me. It started at a very young age, and it's, all the way through to now. Another time, a couple years ago, I was going to get my daughter to have dinner with her or something, and it wasn't yet time. It was maybe 20 minutes beforehand, before the time was. And so I parked my car and I was walking in, and here they are, we're in the parking lot, but on the sidewalk, they're 15 feet away from me, maybe at the most. And it was my daughter and the stepmom. And I was walking this way and they were walking that way. And they both looked at me. We all made eye contact, but my daughter went with her and kept walking because it wasn't yet time. And my daughter was, in that situation, she was pressured into choosing the stepmom over me. And so whether it is my daughter's choice or not, again, whether it's your child's choice or not, it is never, ever their true choice. I need you, if you're going through this, I need you to know. And, it hurt so bad when it was happening, all of those times. But now knowing what it is your child is under the influence. And your child is in a state of, she's been brainwashed. And she's in a state of her critical thinking. It's been stunted. It's stopped. And so they're not able to make the clear-headed decisions that they would have had they not been brainwashed or influenced in such a way. So I think that that's really important for anybody going through this right now to really know here, not just here, but here, knowing that the choices that your children are making against you, those are not organic choices. Those are choices that have come through a lot of programming, right? A lot of pressure, a lot of been made almost under duress. And unfortunately, children, their minds are not complete. I mean, is incredibly smart as my daughter is. I mean, she's so bright. As a child, their brains are not fully developed. It's an easier break-in of the mind. And then conditioned over years and years, it's just, it's a tough situation. Anyway, I don't even know what to say about that. I just got, it's sad to think about. But the important thing for you to know is that the things that you can control and the things that you can't, what you can control is how you think about it and how you feel about it. Just remembering that this is not organically your child's choice. And under any other circumstances, this would not be the case. The child is making these choices out of fear of abandonment from the alienating parent, because that's what it's always about. I would venture to bet, and I don't know what research has been done on this. I'm sure there's been plenty, but I venture to bet that a large percentage of the alienated children, their number one fear is fear of abandonment because of this mess. They've lost one parent already. And then the fear mongering that goes on in order to program the child makes the child feel like they will lose the other parent at any moment, the second that they disappoint. So, So I guess I just wanted to hammer that point in in rejecting you, your child is doing it out of the necessity to survive emotionally. And again, like I said, Amy Baker and the other, also Gardner, also suggests the same thing. They just suggest confronting it and not allowing it to happen. But you really have to start that at a very, very, the first signs of alienation, so that as to condition the alienator to know that you're not going to be the pushover. If you're starting late in the game, it's going to be a really uncomfortable situation to have to endure for all of you, really. I mean, and if you have done it late in the game, if you've decided, listen, I'm going to confront and go stand next to the alienator and my child, at an event or whatever it is, and you've been successful, I would love to hear that story from you. So whether that's you message me or write a comment, I really would love to hear that, because those are the encouraging ones. So there you have it. I just babbled on for a really long time. All right. I will see you next week. Take care.